Workers' Compensation Board agrees. Plus, elephants for sale. But is that cash really being used to care for other animals?
And that money is not going into conservation, it's going into certain individuals' pockets.
Margaret Evans in Zimbabwe. Ottawa and Quebec sent a clear message in the past year. Bombardier is too big to fail. As the aerospace and transportation giant restructured and laid off thousands of workers, both levels of government doled out hundreds of millions of dollars to help. And today, Canadians learned Bombardier's top executives were soundly rewarded for a job well done. Alison Northcott has the story.
Just last month, after many months of asking Ottawa for money, Bombardier got a $372 million loan from Canadian taxpayers. That was on top of the $1 billion the Quebec government invested in the company's C-Series program.
So that's clearly injecting the money where the money is needed.
But critics say it makes Bombardier's decision to add millions to the pay of its top executives a bad one.
The most polite thing you could say is that it's tone deaf. You could also say, of course, that it's outrageous and indicative of an enormous sense of entitlement.
Bombardier's chairman and top 5 executives were paid a total of nearly $33 million in 2016, up almost 50% from the previous year. The chairman, Pierre Beaudoin, earned more than $5 million in 2016, up more than $1 million from the year before. And the CEO, Alain Bellemare, was paid $9.5 million, up more than $3 million from 2015. Bombardier wouldn't agree to an interview today, but says compensation is based on performance and that the company has reduced operating costs and hit profit targets. But it got there in part by laying off more than 14,000 employees. The company is late delivering streetcars to Toronto, and it's been dealing with allegations of corruption overseas.
Last year was not a good year for Bombardier. They lost $981 million. Sales declined by $2 billion. And for the shareholders, a disappointing year.
Today, the Prime Minister defended his government's support for Bombardier.
We respect the free market and the choices that companies will make, but we also have a responsibility to ensure that the investments we make with taxpayer dollars are leading to good jobs and growth.
Quebec's economy minister acknowledged the optics are bad, but said the province's investment in the C-Series and not the company itself was important to maintain jobs.
If I were the company today, I would really question myself on the message that I'm sending to the population.
Some say both levels of government should step in and suggest Bombardier freeze the executives' pay. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
TD Bank faced questions today from shareholders about the salaries of its top executives. But that certainly wasn't the only controversy occupying people's minds. The bank's CEO wasted no time addressing allegations first uncovered by CBC News that TD employees were under pressure to use aggressive sales tactics, allegations other banks are now facing too. Here's Erica Johnson.
We're not opening the doors to you today.
To us, meaning to CBC?
CBC was kept out of TD's shareholders meeting, told it was only for invited media.
This has nothing to do with CBC story. You're not an invited guest.
Inside,
let me address comments made recently in the media about our people and sales practices.
TD's CEO addressed the controversy right off the top. The TD employees, first just 3, then hundreds, have told Go Public they're pressured to hit unrealistic sales targets, acted unethically, sometimes illegally.
And I don't believe we have a widespread problem of that type of behavior.
Shareholders differ on what's going on inside TD.
I'm concerned that undue pressure may have been put on people on the front line.
I think some of them are hypersensitive. I don't think anyone stands with a gun behind their heads and saying, look, you have to do that or else. I don't believe that at all.
Masrani also revealed an outside company has been hired to investigate the bank's sales practices.
This is very important for TD in terms of external reputation and their brand.
This banking expert and professor of finance says TD is handling the controversy well.
What I liked about the TD reaction this morning is that the TD is very serious, that they want to do an external review. They don't think that there's a problem, but they are going to investigate whether the setting of the goals has produced unrealistic pressures on some branches.
All an effort, perhaps, to insulate the company from another financial hit after initial reports surfaced of wrongdoing and illegal activity inside TD. Share values dropped by $7 billion.
TD's CEO also said fewer than 100 customer complaints the bank received last year had to do with what he called compliance concerns, and those were investigated and addressed. He did not elaborate. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
TD also faced opposition today over its involvement in the Trans Mountain Pipeline project.
I'm here today to urge TD and the shareholders at this meeting to support dropping Kinder Morgan as a client because they are a risky investment.
A small group also gathered outside the meeting to protest against the pipeline. Kinder Morgan has hired TD Bank as an advisor to help secure financing for the project. The Prime Minister says Canada continues to pursue the individuals who kidnapped and killed 2 Canadians in the Philippines. Last night, Adrian Arsenault reported new details from Manila about what happened to John Ridsdale and Robert Hull when they were captured nearly 2 years ago and held by Abu Sayyaf. She learned that their beheader and at least 2 of the other kidnappers are well known, but still at large. Today, Trudeau said Canada continues to be committed to finding and punishing all involved.
That is something we continue to work on. We're in close contact with our partners in the Philippines and elsewhere around the world because we are determined and serious about ensuring there are consequences for people who commit acts of terrorism against Canada.
Adrian also reported that no one she spoke to in the Philippines about the case has had any contact with Canadian investigators. After months of allegations of Russian meddling in the U.S. presidential election, there are now 3 separate investigations taking place. 2 of them are by lawmakers in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The third is by the FBI. And tonight, one key figure has said he's ready to talk under the right circumstances. Paul Hunter has that.
It played out like an edge-of-your-seat Hollywood political thriller.
The takeaway from today's hearing, we're all targets of a sophisticated and capable adversary.
The adversary, Russia. The allegation, it meddled in last year's U.S. election. The weapon, disinformation, a.k.a. fake news.
Russian propaganda on steroids.
With hints of a grisly side effect from a former FBI agent.
Follow the trail of dead Russians. There's been more dead Russians in the past 3 months that are tied to this investigation, who have assets in banks all over the world.
And this is just day 1 of public hearings on Capitol Hill for the U.S. Senate's investigation into all of that and more, including, critically, was the Trump campaign itself colluding with Russia on that meddling. Senators today pledged a bipartisan approach, but
that the president's recent contact with his wild and uncorroborated accusations about wiretapping and his inappropriate and unjustified attacks on America's hardworking intelligence professionals does give me grave concern.
Want more? That former FBI agent highlighted how Russian propaganda targeting Hillary Clinton somehow kept getting repeated on the campaign trail by Donald Trump.
He denies the intel from the United States about Russia. He claimed that the election could be rigged. That was the #1 theme pushed by RT, Sputnik News, white outlets, all the way up until the election. He's made claims of voter fraud, that President Obama is not a citizen.
And as a simultaneous investigation by other lawmakers is in disarray over suspicions of White House meddling, today, from the other side of the planet, Vladimir Putin himself, dismissing all of the allegations as endless, groundless, and more.
Lies, hoaxes, and provocations. This is all being used for the domestic political agenda in the USA.
Tonight, another turn with word Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, fired over his ties to Russia, has, as his lawyer put it tonight, a story to tell. And he wants to testify if given immunity from prosecution. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The Trump administration may have given a signal of what it wants to renegotiate in NAFTA. Contents of a draft proposal were published by the Wall Street Journal. It suggests tariffs should be allowed if imports endanger a domestic industry. And the White House could look to alter the requirement that bids from Mexican and Canadian companies must be considered on infrastructure projects in the U.S. Trump's press secretary would not confirm the details of the document. An Alberta RCMP officer has been charged with 2 sexual assaults and other offenses. The accusations against Constable Jason Tress involve 3 different women. Some of the incidents allegedly happened while he was on duty. Tress first appeared in court yesterday. He's due to reappear next month. Former Montreal Mayor Michael Applebaum is beginning a 1-year jail sentence tonight for corruption-related offenses. A judge today found the 54-year-old guilty of fraud and breach of trust. He was found to have pocketed around $37,000 in kickbacks from developers and engineering firms during his time in charge of Montreal's largest borough. Applebaum later took over the reins at City Hall in 2012 on a promise of cleaning it up.
We do not believe the incident is linked to any type of international terrorist activity.
Police in Saskatoon are investigating the bombing of the city's courthouse overnight. The improvised explosive device went off near the front doors. No one was hurt, and police are still searching for a suspect. Toronto police have filed a rare charge of pretending to practice witchcraft. Police say Murali Mutialu advertised himself as an astrologer and psychic, and it's alleged he charged a client $101,000 to remove an evil spirit. Fraud and extortion charges have also been filed. In what's believed to be a Canadian legal first, a Prince Edward Island woman has been awarded benefits after her husband's death was officially linked to workplace bullying. The ruling follows a complex 3-year legal battle. Sally Pitt has the story.
For Lisa Donovan, the decision by the Workers' Compensation Board confirms what she felt from the start about her husband's death.
I said that from the get-go. I believe that Eric's workplace bullying and harassment was the reason that my husband had his heart attack.
Donovan says in the last few years of his life, her husband was under increasing stress at the group home where he worked. He told those close to him he was being bullied by his supervisor.
The last words I said to my husband were, "You're going on stress leave, you need to get away." And I wish I'd had said them earlier.
Eric Donovan died after a cardiac arrest in 2013. He was 47. After his death, Lisa Donovan applied to the Workers' Compensation Board for benefits, arguing her husband's death was caused by workplace bullying. Donovan's lawyer submitted medical records saying he was being treated for stress and didn't have a pre-existing heart condition that would have caused his death. And co-workers swore affidavits that Donovan's program manager at the time had a reputation as a bully.
They felt so strongly that Mr. Donovan did not need to die, should not have died from this cause.
In awarding benefits, the Workers' Compensation Board found that workplace bullying was more likely than not the cause, based on the evidence it had. The organization that runs the group home where Donovan worked, Queens County Residential Services, says he never lodged a complaint or a grievance, and it denies any bullying took place and is appealing the decision. Lisa Donovan's lawyer says he did an exhaustive search of workplace claims across Canada and couldn't find a similar case where benefits had been awarded for a death linked to workplace bullying. He says this decision could be used for future claims across the country. Sally Pitt, CBC News, Charlottetown.
2 girls are among 3 people killed in a violent car crash southwest of Toronto. The 12 and 14-year-olds were part of a group of kids traveling home to the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation after playing laser tag. The van they were in flipped after a car driving in the opposite direction hit them.
When we lose children, people always think of your children, my children, her children, or his children, but they're all our children.
The 21-year-old driver of the car also died in the crash. A raging fire has caused part of a highway to collapse in Atlanta. Flames had already forced police to shut down the interstate before the overpass gave way. Thick black smoke could be seen kilometers away, possibly caused by spools of plastic piping that caught fire under the bridge. There is no word on injuries. Straight ahead, ever considered a career in artificial intelligence?
The National with Peter Mansbridge.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Peter Mansbridge, and this is The National. Well, we are a long way from our usual cozy studio tonight. It's about 3,000 kilometers that way. This is the Northwest Passage. We're in a shaft at the old Syndicate coal mines here in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. These are unusual surroundings for The National. We're about an hour north of Fort McMurray, from Stratford, Ontario, in Delta, British Columbia, from Parliament Hill in Saskatoon, going live off the deck of an icebreaker in Vancouver. From Montreal, once again tonight, a city at the heart of a crisis in the cold. Do you worry about the ice?
Yes, I do, yeah. What's going to happen if it all melts away?
Oh, jolly we miner men are we. They've all worked the coal mines in Cape Breton. Now they sing to preserve the heritage and the folklore of the island's mining communities. Canada is still here tonight, but just barely. Quebecers have voted no to sovereignty. But of course, the story the whole world is watching is the historic switch to the year 2000. This is the day that Winnipeg has been waiting for, worrying about, even dreading. Good evening, I'm Peter Mansbridge from downtown Toronto. For the most part, an eerily dark Toronto. Good evening, I'm Peter Mansbridge, inside Vatican City. Good evening from the Netherlands, Baghdad. In Tiananmen Square tonight from London. In Vimy Ridge, France. From Kandahar, Afghanistan. Here in Berlin, there's another opening in the wall tonight, number 22. When the waves crashed ashore here and they didn't have far to come, there's the beach line. Our ride today is on an Israeli Air Force Black Hawk helicopter. That is the area that the suicide bombers used to get to some of their targets. Look at this. Those are the papal apartments just over on the other side. That's where the Pope lives. As night falls, we're back on the road, moving through the streets of Kandahar, and as always, on the lookout. Thanks for watching. On the same day Justin Trudeau was forced to defend his government's loans to Bombardier, the Prime Minister announced federal money for Ford Canada, more than $200 million to support a manufacturing plant and for research into developing the cars of tomorrow. Trudeau says the money will help create and maintain 800 jobs. He was also talking up new investments in artificial intelligence. What does that look like? Ron Charles went to find out.
Alexa, what do you do?
I can play music, answer questions.
This is probably what a lot of Canadians think of when you mention artificial intelligence or AI. Amazon's Alexa Assistant app is known worldwide for bringing rudimentary AI into homes, even though for now those homes are only in the U.S. Just one example of how far ahead U.S.-based companies are in commercializing artificial intelligence. Today, a flurry of announcements meant to get Canada's AI engines going.
These investments will ensure that Canada is able to recruit, train, and most importantly, retain the top-tier talent needed to secure Canada's leadership in deep AI.
The investments are from the $125 million in last week's federal budget for AI projects across the country. The first, the Vector Institute in Toronto, an empty shell right now, but meant to team up with the University of Toronto and other schools to launch and sell AI projects, all with money from Ottawa, the province, and several corporations.
So when you look at all this together, it's a very meaningful investment in a place where Canada can lead.
Experts say leading will require efforts to attract and keep talent and brains in Canada. Talent like Guelph University's Thor Johnson.
I think it's really impressive that we've been able to get all this funding for an institute of this size to be here and preserve the talent and the quality that we have here.
That talent is clearly ready to show off its intelligence, artificial and otherwise. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
Big name companies are hitting pause on YouTube. They're boycotting the video sharing giant, worried their brands are being damaged by ad placements alongside unsavory content. Jacqueline Hansen has the story.
Gabby, I love your video. Thank you. Our videos.
Every day, people around the world watch millions of hours of YouTube videos. Along with those videos, millions of ads. But after major brands like Pepsi, Starbucks, and Walmart heard their ads were appearing alongside offensive content, they and many others have pulled them off of YouTube.
We specifically asked that our adverts not appear alongside offensive videos, and yet that's exactly what's happened. It's incredibly damaging for a brand.
Advertising used to be easier to control. Brands spent much of their ad dollars on TV commercials and chose which shows to pair them with. But digital advertising isn't as clear-cut.
I have a term that the World Wide Web, WWW, really stands for the Wild, Wild West.
Brands are spending millions on online platforms, trusting the popularity of digital companies to carry their message to the right audiences.
What we've discovered with technology is the law of good intentions. Even though you're trying to do something good, usually there's a couple of things that backfire on you.
On behalf of YouTube, Google tried to calm advertisers' concerns.
I want to start by saying sorry. We apologize when anything like that happens. We don't want it to happen, you don't want it to happen, and we take responsibility for it.
But a fix won't be easy to figure out, according to this tech expert.
When it comes to this issue now, we're asking them to make an evaluation as to whether or not certain communities will find certain content objectionable. So that's very subjective, and that's a very difficult thing for computers and for automation to handle, because what I find objective or objectionable might not be what you find objectionable.
That would require a combination of technology and hiring more staff. Costly, but YouTube says it's willing to invest in both. Even still, experts say a solution won't happen overnight. But given YouTube's size and popularity, whatever it comes up with may set a new standard for online advertising. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Big money for big game coming up. How the government of Zimbabwe is cashing in on elephants and why protecting them is dangerous work.
They can kill me.
Plus, they too are living in fear. We talked to migrant workers in the U.S. That's all still ahead on The National. Time to check today's business numbers. The TSX dropped 78 points, no change to the dollar. In New York, the Dow gained 69 points. The price of oil went up 84 cents a barrel. Hello there, Facebook Live fans. We have your questions. Once again, we got about 4 minutes. You'll see a lot of activity going on in the background. We're setting up for that next shot. You really want to see this piece coming up by Margaret Evans out of London. She was in Zimbabwe. It's a story about the elephants of Zimbabwe, and you will want to see it. Spectacular photography, but a really good story, too. Okay, your questions. Must be something about Thursdays. These look, well, it's interesting. Wayne Trelinsky asks, is Peter having a suit sale on July 2nd? Yes, I'll be down on Front Street. I'll have my suits out there, and there will be some bargains. No, I give my suits away to charity. Penny Torrens asks, what is your favorite food? Hot dogs. Jean-Jacques Pepin asks, Peter, remember me, Jacques Pepin? Yes, Jacques, I do remember you. Bill Paul Buttles asks, Peter, why is the media reluctant to interview someone who claims to have had a vision? I'm not sure we're reluctant to interview people who claim to have had a vision. I've seen stories that we've done on this program of different places in the world where people have claimed to have had a vision. Colby Farrell asked, do you hang out with Rosie much? Well, you know, she's in Ottawa, I'm here. But last Friday night, we were both in Charlottetown. We went out for dinner, a bunch of us, but Rosie is very funny, you know, very smart, great interviewer, terrific on politics, but also very funny. Shane Galloway asked, what's your secret to your enthralling voice? Right here, tea and lemon, especially this week. Did you enjoy your role in Zootopia? Connor Greenwood asks. Yes, I did. Colleen Shinkiewski asks, Peter, have you ever felt like sounding off like Rex does, and about what? No, I have not ever thought about sounding off like Rex. See, the elephants are getting ready for what we call the big wall, the screen behind me when I get up there. Alistair Divitt asks, do you think Scotland will get independence? I go to Scotland almost every year to golf in the summer with my son and my wife. And one of the things, you know, we'll see what the people of Scotland decide to do about their future. As long as it doesn't impact golf, I'll be very happy with whatever that decision is. Gary Aduno asks, how do you take your coffee? Double milk. Paul Crosby asks, how long have you been working at the CBC, Mr. Mansbridge? Paul, I started first day work at CBC, 1968. So, you know, we're getting close to 50 years. Irene McIntyre asks, when is Peter Mansbridge's senator appointment? I don't know whether you've been following the Senate story very well, Irene, but you have to apply if you want to be a senator. I have not applied, and I have no desire to apply and no plan to apply. Kim Shepard O'Neill asks, who's your favorite comedian?
1 minute, Peter.
1 minute. That's the voice of Al Wiley, our floor director here. He's my favorite comedian. He's a very funny guy, too. Sharon Metcalf asks, will travel feature much in your retirement plans, or will you just want to go fishing at the cottage? A little bit of both. I'll certainly want to go fishing at the cottage. That's how are we doing on time? We've got time for one more. Frederick Harrison asks, do you find the world is getting more cruel and more bleak, or is this impression the result of bias in the news media? I don't think it's a bias. There is a focus in terms of, you know, what is news. News is what's changed, what's different, and often those kind of things are not pretty. Whether they're cruel or not, that's another subject. But it's an interesting question, and only 15 seconds to go, so I don't have time. May I plead with you, eh?
And I'm not kidding.
You're not kidding.
8,
okay. I've got to get over there, right?
6, yes.
Watch this piece coming up on elephants. You're going to like it. Over to the big wall. See you in a moment.
Each elephant consumes about 200 liters of water and 200 kgs of leaves.
An appetite worthy of a majestic mammal. But could the elephant's eating habits be an eco-burden? While the world worries about the decline of the population because of poaching, the government of Zimbabwe claims there are too many of the beasts, that they're not sustainable, and that the country needs to sell some of them. But environmentalists say what Zimbabwe is really selling is lies. Margaret Evans now with the story of the disappearing giants.
Victoria Falls, the smoke that thunders. It casts its mists up to the clouds like a corridor between heaven and earth. The waters cascade down through a great fissure in the rock to reform at the bottom as the lower Zambezi River. Add in some of the wildlife this corner of the world is famed for, and it's a little slice of paradise. But in troubled Zimbabwe these days, even the Garden of Eden can be put up for sale. To save it, says the government, to squander it, say critics. Beware of elephants crossing the road, just one of the signs alerting travelers to the approach of Hwange National Park, south of Victoria Falls, and boasting the widest variety of mammals on the planet. The number of elephants in Africa is dropping at an alarming rate. But not here, according to the Zimbabwean government. Here it says they're plentiful, too plentiful, taking a toll on the environment and the people who live near them. Estelle and her family live on the edge of Hwange. Mainly subsistence farmers, they survive on the corn and sorghum they grow, selling any extras.
The lions in this area, they always moving. Now and then, they attack our goats.
They've tried to fortify their small patch of land, but they are fragile defenses.
They jump over these sticks, which we put as a fence, try and get inside, especially elephants. They don't mind about this.
But despite all that, Estelle doesn't want the animals or the park to disappear. She just wants better protection for her children and her livelihood.
I think that way it can be better because the animals is our life. We need them. We don't want them to be destroyed.
It's a popular topic with the neighbors. Ben Alexander Ndaba says tougher anti-poaching laws make him think the government cares more for animals.
But once an animal kills me, there's nothing that is taking place. Just, oh, okay, tough luck to me. But you kill an animal, you go to prison.
Zimbabwe's brooding capital, Harare. Governed along with the rest of the country by Robert Mugabe, freedom fighter turned kleptocrat for nearly 4 decades now, the city offers up a stricken face to the outside world. Formal unemployment at around 90%, public salaries often unpaid, hospitals running out of drugs, and a cash shortage so severe that the government began printing money, bond notes. Paying to care for national parks and the wildlife in them is not a government priority. But selling off wildlife to raise cash is. Increasingly so.
Selling the animals as a way to maintain a balance of our own ecosystem makes sense because you have other people who are enjoying these animals. Argument they can argue because they do not bear this burden of taking care of 86,000 elephants.
Zimbabwe's Environment Minister, Opa Muchinguri, is unapologetic. In December, she approved the sale of 35 elephants captured in Hwange to China. The year before that, Zimbabwe sold 24. How else, asks the minister, can a cash-strapped country like Zimbabwe preserve a wildlife heritage the rest of the world also lays claim to?
Each elephant consumes about 200 liters of water and 200 kgs of leaves. It has an impact on our ecosystem.
Muchinguri insists money earned goes right back into conservation. The alternative, she says, would be a cull. But critics say Zimbabwe's animals are no different than its diamond mines. Just another national resource for a corrupt government to plunder. Lions and elephants and giraffes treated like rainy day savings accounts.
And that money is not going into conservation. It's not going into anti-poaching. It's going into certain individuals' pockets.
Johnny Rodriguez is the head of the Zimbabwe Conservation Task Force. He's a controversial figure here, considered by some to be an over-the-top conspiracy theorist. But even his critics admit there's usually more than a grain of truth in his allegations. He doesn't believe Zimbabwe has as many elephants as it thinks or says it does.
There's no way we've got that. If we've got in total of around 35, 40,000 elephants in Zimbabwe, that's a lot.
Advisory, just caution along the side. You've got quite a few impala and they're rather frisky this morning.
Impala on the runway, a common problem for bush pilots landing along Lake Kariba in the northern Sabungwe region, a few hundred kilometers downstream from Victoria Falls. When the dust settles, another celestial horizon appears. The layered hills in the distance belong to Zambia, nature seemingly untouched. But appearances can be deceiving, and the story of the elephant in this part of Zimbabwe is one of near decimation.
Today there are an estimated 3,500 elephants in the region of Sabungwe. A decade ago, there were 15,000, and elephants aren't the only animals under threat here.
That's a decline of about 75%, mainly down to poaching, elephants slaughtered for their ivory tusks. Nick Milne runs the Bumi Hills Foundation. It works to protect wildlife in and around the lake and their habitats.
Copy, Matt. We'll stay 100 meters away from you.
Milne also questions claims about an abundance of elephants in Zimbabwe.
I just think we need to look at the science behind how we get the numbers first before we can start making these assumptions that there's too many animals.
In Wangi, for instance, elephants from Botswana are attracted to the park during dry season by water pumped year-round. It blurs the numbers.
The vegetation around those areas has been decimated, so it looks like there's an overpopulation of elephants. But that is very much around the camps where there are pans, which is a natural tourist draw because the animals are in there.
In the meantime, the government message that Zimbabwe has more elephants than it can cope with makes it harder to impress just how existential the elephants' battle for survival is here. The dawn chorus, with a few human voices joining in. Bumi's anti-poaching rangers are going through some morning paces, all recruited from other parts of Zimbabwe. They haven't lost an elephant to poachers in 18 months in the area they patrol, about 50 square kilometers. A drop in the bucket and one that needs constant vigilance. Most of the men don't want to be identified, including this former police officer. Crime syndicates trading in ivory, he says, are not to be messed with.
They can kill me or they can eliminate me. So in order to secure myself, I mustn't disclose where I am.
People poaching because they're hungry is something else.
You can see this person, he have no way. He doesn't have any other means of living. Sometimes when he try to grow crops, no rain, he can get nothing.
A journey out to some of the villages nearby speaks to the poverty that many in this part of Zimbabwe contend with. Health clinics are few and far between, and child malnutrition rates are the highest in the country up here, according to aid workers.
Examples of wild animals, you know. Who can help me? Yes.
Elephant.
Yes, an elephant. An elephant.
But there's no shortage of enthusiasm or concentration at the schools. Even during the rainy season, when classrooms seem to have been blown in on the edge of a tornado.
What is it, Butch?
A poacher is someone who hunts animals.
Poaching is one of the subjects teachers tackle here.
If we keep our elephants in games.
But No Rest Maragari admits not all the parents approve.
Community doesn't accept the idea. They don't welcome the idea because mainly here they survive on poaching.
A grim catalogue of death is laid out on the grounds of the Bumi headquarters back at Lake Kariba. Mainly jawbones from animals that have been killed by poachers, but a few skulls too. This water buffalo was caught by a snare right between the eyes. The team has removed more than 17,000 of the traps from patrolled territory since 2009.
Apart from anything else, it's a very horrible way to die, being slowly choked to death around the neck or around the leg where you're trying to get out of the snare desperately. It's cut down to the bone, and you will die slowly of infection and all sorts of other complications. It's terrible.
Mark Brightman is qualified to dart injured animals. He says the tactics criminal gangs employ are changing.
In recent years, we've seen a huge rise in the use of cyanide poisoning at waterholes, or they put coarse salt down, and the elephants will consume that very readily, especially in the dry season.
The impact of loss on an elephant herd can be profound. One reason why so many conservationists say they disagree with Zimbabwe's decision to sell the animals abroad, especially the younger ones.
We understand a lot more about elephants and other animals and their social interactions and how they've got pretty much the same sort of emotions as we have. So you go into an elephant herd and remove tiny baby elephants, it's like taking a child away from a mother.
But back in Harare, the government line is that it can only save the elephant by exploiting it. At first sight, these storerooms look like a cartographer's dream, shelves of rolled up parchment seemingly as delicate as eggshells. But they're elephant tusks piled high and deep. The smell of death clings to them. There are 15,000 tusks kept here behind 3 levels of security, 100 tons. That's about the same amount Kenya burned last year, a message to ivory smugglers that their bloody trade must end. But Zimbabwe wants to sell its huge stockpile, petitioning the body legislating trade in endangered species to do so.
Our natural resources, so that we plow it back to conservation programs, not just for parks, but also for private conservancies, for the campfire programs. These are community programs.
But the clouds over Zimbabwe's future are heavy, linked as it is to a regime still defined by violence and graft. Building trust and credibility is problematic. And yet without it, Zimbabwe's animals and the people trying to coexist alongside them face a hard climb. Park rangers here earn little money, and Zimbabwe can't afford the anti-poaching tools, say, of neighboring South Africa, where sniffer dogs and helicopters are used in some of the parks. And convincing locals that wildlife can bring economic promise through tourism needs goodwill from abroad. Ross Kennedy, the chairman of the African Travel and Tourism Association, says selling off animals sends the wrong message.
It is terrible for a country like us that has done so much over the years to protect wildlife, to then be exporting wildlife. It's not something that anybody I know would ever condone. So you're quite right. It leads to negative media.
Lake Kariba's shimmering waters haven't always been here. The lake created when the Zambezi River was dammed back in the 1950s. The tips of trees that stood in the gorge before it was flooded still reach out from its depths, a petrified forest delivering a message from the past. Some 60,000 Tonga people were forcibly moved. And wild animals became trapped on islands in the river, starving. Thousands, though, were saved in a massive rescue mission dubbed Operation Noah. All these years later, the Ark is late or missing, or maybe just not coming, and not just in Zimbabwe. Unless man finds room for the elephants to roam and the will to end their slaughter at the hands of poachers, it's believed that wild elephants in Africa could be extinct within a decade. Just their bones left behind like the trees in the lake, a wisp of memory to remind us that giants once walked here in a lost world. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Zimbabwe.
For an interactive look at life in Zimbabwe and how Robert Mugabe is selling wildlife to stay in power, go to cbcnews.ca/Zim. They live in daily fear of being deported. Migrant workers in the U.S. share their stories next.
Most of the teenagers that we talked to last spring were very scathing about the kind of sex education that they got, both from their parents at home and at school.
I think they try to keep us naive as long as possible. At 12 and 13, I think we're ready to learn about the actual physical thing of sex.
Most people, by the time they get to a grade 11 or 12, have gone out before anyhow.
Teenagers are getting their sex education from each other, and it is freely available to them on the newsstands. I feel I can give my kids the values they need when sex is the issue, but I cannot begin to give them the facts they need. That can only come from trained specialists using a curriculum as carefully planned as the maths course.
The dilemma facing young people today, sexuality. More adolescents are sexually active. By 16, most kids have had their first sexual experience, yet many of them are not sexually responsible. 85% of teenagers don't use any form of contraception.
During intercourse, the sperm are deposited inside the female.
A lot of people think the course is going to encourage sex, but it doesn't. If it does anything, it turns you right off.
The whole idea of birth control is to prevent fertilization.
They're being taught without the same morals that I would want my children to be taught under.
How do you feel you would perform in bed with two females?
Well, I personally think I'm pretty good.
Do you think you could?
Her name is Sue Johansson, and for the last year and a half, she spent her Sunday evenings answering questions, every imaginable question about sex.
I want to know how it'd have to be to have an abortion.
I picked up this prostitute, and I noticed that I have these cold sores on the inside of my lips.
They tell her things they'd never tell another living soul. She says the reason is simple.
Because they're desperate. They can't find anybody else that they can really open up to, who will trust, who will not put them down.
If you would give it to them straight, I think you'd have a lot less trouble with people going wrong afterwards, not really knowing what is happening.
Across the United States, migrant labor is a vital reason for what gets from the farm to the dinner table, from fruits and vegetables to meat, milk, and cheese. But recent changes to how that country's immigration law is enforced has many concerned for their future. Stephen D'Souza went to rural Vermont and met dairy workers living in fear.
Amidst the chores, the back-breaking work, the 14-hour days, for migrant workers at this farm in central Vermont, there is a constant fear they'll be swept up by immigration officers.
At first, I didn't think it would get to what it is now, but now I don't feel safe. Now we're just waiting to be deported at any time.
The workers here don't want their identities revealed, afraid it will make them an obvious target. Fear of deportation has changed their daily routines. Now they go straight home after work. A rare trip to the store is done at night, when they think it's less likely that immigration officers will be waiting for them.
Before, I would go out more often. We would play soccer with friends from other farms. You wouldn't hear anything about immigration officers. Things were calmer until the new president was elected.
For farm workers, the threat of deportation was always there under President Obama. Miguel Alcudia knows that firsthand. He was on his way to the bank when he was arrested in September. He's now awaiting a hearing. He says under the Trump administration, though, the government is trying to sow fear.
The truth is, that's what they want, and they're succeeding. The community is feeling intimidated and is going back into the shadows. A lot of my friends don't want to go out anymore. They're scared of being detained.
One by one, they are being tracked down and thrown the hell out of our country.
Their fear is being fed by Donald Trump's stance on immigration. Trump has said he only wants to target criminal illegal immigrants. But an executive order promising more aggressive enforcement and Homeland Security guidelines that dramatically increase who's considered criminal has many afraid of mass deportations. Workers' rights advocates like Will Lambeck of Migrant Justice say in the last few weeks, at least 6 farm workers have been detained in Vermont.
The nominal protections that had existed under the Obama administration have pretty much been destroyed.
But for some like dairy farmer Hans Vorsteveld, the fear is overblown.
Because I don't think it's going to happen. I think it would disrupt the economy tremendous.
Across the country, the U.S. dairy industry estimates immigrant labor makes up 51% of the workforce. Removing them entirely would raise milk prices 90% and cost the economy $32 billion. Some farmers say the economic picture is missing from the immigration debate. This farmer also doesn't want his identity public, afraid for his workers.
These people are here, working hard, doing necessary work, paying taxes, and no recognition, and they're being labeled as criminals.
Dairy industry leaders like Joe Tisbert of the Vermont Farm Bureau say the solution is to fix a broken visa system.
It would be very difficult not to have them in the state and still produce the amount of milk we do every day.
The challenge is that dairy workers aren't eligible for the temporary work visas available to other agriculture sectors.
Dairy is a year-round occupation, so you need workers year-round. You can't have them come for 10 months and then have no one here.
Vorsteveld says he hopes common sense wins out.
I agree with him as far as upholding the law, but I think he is humane enough where he's not going to be stupid and kick everybody out.
Back on the farm, all the workers want is a chance.
Give us an opportunity to be here, to work. We just want to work.
And he says they want an opportunity, that their work will pay off with a chance to stay in America without having to constantly look over their shoulder. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Burlington, Vermont.
Well, a memorable moment on the International Space Station that the astronauts may want to forget. That story's next.
I'm Anna Maria Tremonti. Tomorrow on The Current, in 2014, a ship carrying 500 refugees, many from Syria, sank near Greece. Only 11 survived. Guest host Laura Lynch speaks to one of them on The Current, weekdays at 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
Baby, my heart
heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you'll lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone.
85 years ago today, the first telephones went on sale to the public. To give you an idea what sort of a telephone you could buy at that time, we asked the telephone company to dust off some of the ancient models stored in the basement of its University Avenue building. This attractive demonstration wasn't really in keeping with the telephone scenes of 1877. Originally, boys were employed as telephone operators. They were later replaced by girls when it was found they were too rude to customers.
And this is something else that's in use now and will one day be a part of every home. It's called the video phone. If I'm off center, you can't see me anymore. So
You'd only want to do that if you weren't properly dressed.
The size, the shape, and the color has changed a little in the past 30 years, but it still does the same thing. Or does it? The fact is that the system to which this phone is connected has changed radically. Now this uses the phone, and this does, and so does this. The telecommunications industry has produced an electronic highway.
Tim Barnett is checking in with his office.
Hello, Claudine.
He's using his new high-tech cellular phone. It's got no wires, no jacks, and it travels anywhere. The people selling it claim it's the productivity tool of the 80s. It could equally be an expensive bust.
To ever call me on my cellular phone, I'd appreciate it.
This gadget doesn't come cheap. It costs between $2,000 and $6,000 just to get the equipment, and there's call charges on top of that.
Yesterday, they were gadgets used only by the rich and powerful. Today, your local pizza delivery is likely to have one. And in next to no time, so will most of us who want to have that phone, no matter where we happen to be.
Research in Motion dominates a small industrial park in Waterloo, Ontario. It invented and manufactures a pager called a BlackBerry. Its unique feature, a keyboard that allows you to send and receive email essentially in real time.
Now, when Apple says it plans to make a new cell phone, people listen. Today, the company showed off its iPhone with a touch screen.
Samsung has brought its fight for smartphone supremacy to Apple's turf.
If you refuse me, honey, you'll lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own.
The National.
The National.
Maybe I don't have a shield. What? Yeah, I don't have a shield.
Where is it?
It was supposed to help protect the ISS from space junk, but today, a debris shield itself became debris. The panel floated away as astronauts tried to install it. The mishap was especially unfortunate for Peggy Whitson. During today's outing, she broke the record for most spacewalks by a woman. And history was also made here on Earth today. For the first time, SpaceX has reused one of its rockets. The recycled Falcon 9 booster relaunched and then landed successfully, marking a huge step in Elon Musk's efforts to cut costs in space travel. That's The National this Thursday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.